Hello students. So in this video, we'll do a news and editorial analysis. Now students, before I proceed, there's something I wish to inform you that we've made a slight modification, a slight change, in the format of these videos based on the input and the feedback we got from our students. Now the thing is that so far we've been doing only editorial analysis in which, we used to select usually 2 editorial articles for a particular video and analyze that, right? But what we realized was that, the editorials can be sometimes very limited in their coverage. For example, if we, see the last 10 days, there are so many articles only on the Russia-Ukraine issue, right? And in the process, the other important pertinent issues do get left out. So editorials usually focus on only the articles that are being hotly debated at the national and the international level. But there are other important issues that the students need to know or that are relevant for the students, right? So in order to make this whole exercise, more useful for our audience, what we decided was to combine the news and editorial analysis, right? So for these video students, we might select either 2, like for each video, either 2 editorial articles or 2 news pieces, or 1 editorial article and 1 news piece, right? Depending on the relevance for the students. Also students, the other complaint that we got was that most of the articles that we analyzed were available only to the subscribers, right? So we thought, okay, so let's just do both a news and editorial analysis, right? So that we can, help the students gain a comprehensive understanding of all the important topical issues. And our coverage itself becomes very, comprehensive, wherein we cover all the important issues that are of relevance to the students. So the first article that I've chosen for this analysis, it's titled "A Testing Vote on India's UNSC Stand on Ukraine." Now, students, the article says that US and European allies plan to ensure a criticism of Moscow's action at the United Nations General Assembly, where they already have the support of more than 80 countries. So there was this resolution, that was presented in the Security Council, but obviously it got vetoed by Russia. Then US and European allies, they sort of moved a resolution in the United Nations General Assembly to criticize the actions of Moscow, Moscow's recent military attack on Ukraine students, right? But India here chose to abstain from the voting against Russia, right? So now Western coalition is disappointed that why India abstained from voting. This was a very critical issue that probably required all the countries to come together and unify, behind US in criticizing Russia. However, India chose to abstain from voting, so did China and UAE. So this really disappointed the Western coalition students. And now let's understand what stand did India take. So according to this, editorial article, India's abstention from the UNSC resolution was perhaps a foregone conclusion, right? That means it was very obvious that India would abstain from voting, right? Given that, Prime Minister Modi was in talks with Putin well before that voting. Now, students, apart from the India-Russia defense and strategic partnership, Russia is India's most trusted P5 ally when it comes to blocking intrusive resolutions on Kashmir, right? Now, why India took this stand? So India took this stand because India and Russia, they have a strategic partnership. They have a defense partnership, students. Also, Russia is India's most trusted P5 ally. Now, what is P5, students? P5 is a term used to refer to the permanent 5 members of the Security Council, namely US, UK, Russia, China, and France, right? So whenever students, there is any resolution on Kashmir in the Security Council, Russia, often or always vetoes those resolutions in the interest of India, right? So now the article says that New Delhi must now consider whether its aspirations to be a leading power can be achieved without having a clear position on a conflict that threatens global security, students. Now, this conflict between Russia and Ukraine is not limited to the two countries, students. It has broader security repercussions and implications for the rest of the world. It's a major security threat, right? And India is trying to play a very diplomatic, fine balancing act, right? So in this case, we saw that India abstained from voting. India has not openly condemned or criticized the actions of Russia, right? Now, the article says that if India aspires to be a leading power, it cannot achieve that status or that recognition by being on the sidelines, by sitting on the fence, by talking in politically correct and diplomatic language, and only, uh, um, asking the countries to talk and to, adopt diplomatic measures or to come to the table and negotiate. No, India will have to take a side. India will have to take a stand. India will have to condemn the actions of Russia openly, even though the two have been long-standing friends, right? Then the article says that government's ambivalence, that means its hesitation, right? Its indecisiveness, is read as active support for aggressive transgressions by a more powerful neighbor over a weaker one. That if India chooses to remain silent on the issue, it will be read as India's support for aggressive transgression by a more powerful neighbor over a weaker one, something India has protested in its own neighborhood. So India has always complained and been vocal on the international forums about China's aggression on India's borders, and termed that as aggressive transgression of more powerful neighbor over a weaker one. So why is India not coming out actively in the support of Ukraine on this issue when it has protested about this issue in its own neighborhood, a similar issue, right? So now, students, let's understand the background of the issue. Now, the background is that Russia chaired the meeting, right, as it holds the presidency for the month of February, and it vetoed the resolution that was presented at the Security Council, right? Now, students, the Council reaffirmed its support to Ukraine's independence, sovereignty, territorial integrity, and unity within internationally recognized borders. However, India, without naming Russia, said the recent turn of events is deeply disturbing. So India did not take the name of Russia. India abstained from voting, and all India said was that this whole turn of events was disturbing, students. And India has appealed for the cessation of violence, bringing the violence to stop. And India said that its main concerns were about the Indian nationals stuck in Ukraine. Now, students, let's understand that why India abstained from voting. So number one, India has key partners on both the sides, students. On one hand, you have US-led Western Bloc, and on the other hand, you have Russia. India enjoys key strategic partnership with both the sides, right? And India has been trying to maintain a balance between both of them. Now, India did not vote against Russia because it has historically enjoyed strong and friendly relations with Russia, right? India also did not vote in favor of Russia because this was a matter of violence and aggression and impinged on the sovereignty of Ukraine, right? And at the same time, US has been on the side of Ukraine, a country with which India enjoys strategic relationship and is part of the US-led Quad. So basically, the question arises that if India and Russia enjoy such a long-standing friendship, India could have voted in favor of Russia. Why did it abstain from voting? It abstained from voting because A, this was a matter of violence and aggression and impinged on the sovereignty of the country, right? So India could not have taken a stand in favor of this violence. And also India enjoys strategic relationship with US and is part of the US-led Quad grouping. Quad grouping, it's a grouping of 4 country students, India, US, Australia, and Japan, right? Now let's quickly understand India-Russia relations. So the relation between Russia and India are an important and privileged strategic partnership, students. It started way back in 1955 when the then Indian Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru, he made a visit to Russia. And during the Cold War, students, India and USSR had a strong strategic military, economic, and diplomatic relationship. And even after the collapse of USSR, Russia inherited its close relationship with India. And, it became a very special relationship. Now, if we talk about the partnership between India and Russia have strategic relationships, students. India is the second largest market for the Russian defense industry, right? In 2017, approximately 68% of Indian military's hardware import came from Russia, students. And Russia is, in fact, the chief supplier of defense equipment to India. If we talk about the economic relations, students, bilateral trade between both countries is concentrated in key value chain sectors. There are very diversified segments such as machinery, electronics, aerospace, automobile, commercial shipping, and pharmaceuticals. And both countries have a target of reaching $30 billion in bilateral trade by 2025. Energy is an important area of convergence, right? But students, there has been some divergence also. The top leadership of 2 nations have continued to engage with each other, right? For India, what should be concerning is Russia's increasing tilt towards Pakistan as it seeks to curry favor with China. So we all know, students, that in the recent past, Russia and China have become closer. And China is a very strong ally of Pakistan. So Russia in the recent past, has been, you can say, tilting towards Pakistan just to gain favors with China. So now that is one disturbing element between India and Russia relationship. Then, students, another disturbing element between the 2 countries is the military defense complex. Now, the complex is that earlier US was the chief supplier of military goods to India. But in the recent past, India has procured defense and military items from US and France as well, students. And because of this, there has been some simmering tension between India and Russia, right? So now, students, let's understand the significance of ties. Why Russia needs India? So number one, Russia needs India because of the Ukraine conquest, students, right? Russia wants India to sort of, given that it is being isolated and sidelined in the larger international community, Russia would look at India to stand by its side at this point. That is one. Even though Russia and India are, Russia and China are sort of coming closer and are sort of trying to be an ally to each other. Despite of this renewed friendship with China, Russia will soon find itself in competition with Beijing with regard to the new G2 along with the US. That which country is going to rise to become as important or as powerful a country as US. So in that respect, there could be some tension between Russia and China as well. And even in that case, it would look up to India for support. And finally, India can help provide the multipolarity that Russia fiercely seeks, students. Russia would want to curb the US hegemony, students, right? The growing US power, and would want the world to become multipolar with multiple power centers, right? So it would want India and China to grow as powerful as as US, so that it could curtail the US hegemony, students. Now, why does India need Russia? India needs Russia because energy security, students. An area of special interest for India is the exploration of hydrocarbon reserves along the coast of Russia's far east. where India has decided to extend a $1 billion line of credit. Then India and Russia, they collaborate in the space sector, students, right? So India would need the required or the requisite technology from Russia to explore the space further. Then students, for defense purchases, Russia is a critical partner. Indian exports, Russia can be a major market for Indian industries such as pharmaceuticals, manufactured good dairy products, bovine meat, and frozen seafood. Then geopolitical importance, students, Russia continues to be a balancing force against any counter or any design by China and Pakistan may have in the region. And finally, India has ambitions to get a permanent seat in the Security Council, UN Security Council, students. And Moscow, in fact, has been supporting India's bid for the permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council, and India would want to, continue to have Russia support. Next, students, I have selected this news piece which said that Supreme Court asked Center to clarify on legality of cryptocurrency, students, right? So the link for this news would be shared in the description box. Now let's understand the context, students. The Supreme Court has asked the Center whether dealing with cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin is legal in India, right? So the court posed the query while hearing a plea by one of the accused in the Gain Bitcoin scam, seeking quashing of the charges against him. So basically, Supreme Court has asked the Center to come clean and to clarify on the legality of the cryptocurrency, the legal status of the cryptocurrency, so that there is no ambiguity about it, right? Now, students, what is the current status? That there is no formal regulation on cryptocurrencies in India so far. The Center has been working on crypto regulatory framework since 2019, but is yet to introduce a bill, students, right? So basically, cryptocurrency is not regulated in India, students. The government has been working on a framework, but has not come up with it so far. Now, the stand that RBI has taken is that it said that it is against private digital currencies. It had banned the banking system from aiding such trades, which was struck down by the Supreme Court in 2020. So RBI had in the past, banned the cryptocurrency trading, which was struck down by the Supreme Court. Moving on, so let's understand what are the latest developments related to cryptocurrency, students. So in the Union Budget 2022, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman had proposed 30% tax on earnings from cryptocurrency and non-fungible tokens, right? So any income from these digital assets, cryptocurrency, it's known as digital asset, students, it would be taxed at 30%, right? So basically, this is to discourage trading in cryptocurrency. Next, she also said that losses from their sale could not be offset against other income, delivering another disincentive to trading and investment in digital assets. The government also introduced 1% tax deducted at source on digital asset, right? And the government has also announced that RBI will introduce its digital currency in financial year 23. It would be known as, so it is known as Central Bank Digital Currency, CBDC, students, and it would lead to more efficient and cheaper currency management system. Now, what are cryptocurrencies? Cryptocurrencies are digital currencies in which encryption techniques are used to regulate the generation of units of currencies and verify the transfer of funds. So basically, students, digital currencies are, they are based on encryption technologies like blockchain, right? And they regulate the generation of units of currency and verify the transfer of funds operating independently of a central bank. That means cryptocurrencies are not regulated by the central bank. It is outside the purview of the central bank, right? And examples, Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now, why is the RBI against the use of cryptocurrency, students? It is very important to understand that why is RBI against the use of cryptocurrencies? So number one, there is no sovereign guarantee. cryptocurrencies pose risk to consumers. They do not have any sovereign guarantee and hence are not legal tender the way the currencies, the official currencies of any country, they are legal tenders. They have the backing of the central bank. Cryptocurrency is not regulated by central bank or any other governmental agency and therefore pose risks to consumers. Market volatility. Their speculative nature makes them highly volatile, students. For instance, the value of Bitcoin fell from USD 20,000 in December 2017 to USD 3,800 in November 2018, students. Can you imagine the fall? From USD 20,000 in December 2017 to USD 3,800 in November 2018, students, that's massive. So it is this volatile nature of the cryptocurrencies, their speculative nature, that makes RBI, against the use of cryptocurrency. Third, students, risk and security. So basically, if a user loses access to their cryptocurrency, if they lose their private key, that means if they lose their password, it is impossible to recover their access to cryptocurrency, students, right? And finally, malware threats. In some cases, these private keys are stored by technical service providers, for example, your digital wallets and cryptocurrency exchanges, which are prone to virus threat, students, malware threat, right? So because of all these reasons together, RBI is against the the use of cryptocurrency. Next, students, in 2019, there was this Subhash Chandra Garg committee. It was an interministerial committee that was set up on virtual currencies. And it gave the recommendations that ban anybody who mines, holds, transacts, or deal with cryptocurrencies in any form. It recommended a jail term of 1 to 10 years for exchange or trading in digital currency. It proposed a monetary penalty of up to 3 times the loss caused to the exchequer or gains made by the cryptocurrency user. And finally, it said that the government should keep an open mind on the potential issuance of cryptocurrencies by the Reserve Bank of India. So basically, this SC Garg committee took a negative view of the private cryptocurrencies. And what it proposed was that in future, the Reserve Bank of India can consider issuing its own virtual currency. So now coming to the vocabulary part, students, the first word is abstain. Now the word abstain has got 2 meanings. The first is formally decline to vote. So the first meaning is with reference to voting in particular. And the second is restraining oneself from doing something. It could be anything, right? So the example would be Russia abstained from voting. That's how the word has been used in the article. The second example of the usage could be, I intend to abstain from alcohol. That means I intend to stay away from alcohol, right? The next word is ambivalence. Very important word, students. It means the state of having 2 opposing feelings at the same time, or being uncertain about something, when you are indecisive about something, right? When you have 2 conflicting, 2 opposing, 2 different feelings on something. For example, you would want to do something and not want to do the same thing at the same time, right? So the example sentence would be, the government's ambivalence is read as active support for aggressive transgressions by a more powerful neighbor over a weaker one, right? So this is how the sentence has been used in the article, that Indian government's ambivalence is being seen as active support for Russia's activities, right? Government's ambivalence, government's indecisiveness, government's uncertainty on this issue. Moving on. The next word is transgression. Transgression means the act or process of breaking a law or moral rule. The sentence, government's ambivalence is read as active support for aggressive transgressions by a more powerful neighbor. The same sentence, students, right? So it calls Russia's attack on Ukraine as aggressive transgression, right? That Russia is breaking a law by attacking on Ukraine. So transgression. Next, students, the word is impinged. Now, what does the word impinge or impinged means? It means to encroach, to infringe, or to violate other people's rights, students. Right? So basically, it means to encroach upon or to violate other people's rights. Right? It also means to have an effect on something. For example, violence and aggression and impinged on the sovereignty of Ukraine. That means Russia's violence and aggression impinged on the sovereignty of Ukraine. That means it sort of encroached upon the sovereignty of Ukraine, right? The another sentence would be, hopefully the bad weather will not impinge upon our plans, right? That means the bad weather will not have an effect on our plans, right? Next, students, intrusive. Intrusive means causing disruption or annoyance through being unwelcome or uninvited. It also means annoying someone by interfering with their privacy. So it is particularly used with reference to privacy, students, right? When somebody interferes with your privacy, they can be seen as intrusive, right? So the example would be, they found the television cameras too intrusive, right? Or I did not like her intrusive presence, right? So we are done with 5 vocabulary words as well. So that's all for this video, students. I'll see you very soon with another video. Thank you so much.